Kansas to Nights with Alice Cooper. Welcome.
Nice to be here.
Great to be here.
So this radio show has been on the air 11 years, and we play so much Kansas, but this is the first time we've been able to play new Kansas. We're very excited to say those words. So first of all, there's been personnel changes. Let's see, how do we in the last 16 years or so, how do we begin with this? Let's say, Rich.
Yes.
You knew Ronnie how? How did you guys first meet and him join the band?
7-8 years ago, we were playing, it's called the Moondance Jam in Minnesota. It's a several-day rock event. And the band Shooting Star happened to be playing the same day we were playing. And they're from the Kansas City area, us from Topeka. I thought I'd just walk by and to their stage and see how they were doing. And so I went to the side of the stage, and they were playing, and this guy was out front, thousands of people there, and he's just got him in the palm of his hand. Everybody's up screaming, and he's singing his butt off. And I thought, who is this guy? Where did they find this guy? Good for them. This is awesome. And so that's how I first met Ronnie, was very impressed. Don't get a big head about it, though.
No, he totally forgets that I was his pool boy like 10 years before that.
But, so we became Facebook friends, and Ronnie would come to shows occasionally when we play in the Chicago area. And so years kind of went by since then. Then Steve Walsh announced his retirement. We had a lot of shows booked, and quit is not something that I know how to do. And so me and Phil, we just went into not what are we going to do? It's just like, what's next? Okay, what's the plan? And Ronnie, meanwhile, contacted me and said, yeah, if you guys are going to kind of, just kind of throw my hat in the ring here. So with YouTube and all that, you can audition people very easily. So I went to YouTube and watched Ronnie sing, dozens and dozens of songs. I'd seen what he could do live, so really it was just a matter of Phil and I just meeting with him. You never know what you're getting, especially with a musician. What kind of baggage is coming with this guy? And we spend so much time together. It's very important that we're compatible. So Ronnie came to Atlanta, and we just sat around. We didn't really talk music so much, and there was no musical audition. It was just to get to know each other. And sent him home, and the next day you got a call, and he was in the band. And 2 weeks later, we were
and that's what
on the road.
Phil and Rich said to me when I talked to Phil initially, and he had me come down to Atlanta. And he said, we're not having you come down to audition. We're just having you come down to meet you, see if you're a nice guy. We already know you could sing your butt off. We just want to know if you're a nice guy. And when I had my initial meeting with them, we talked business for
minutes.
I mean, 5 minutes would be max. And the next couple of hours, we were just laughing and having a good time and telling stories. And it was so funny. I remember walking out with you and Phil, and Phil's next to me, and he looks at me and goes, well, that went well. Like you got the job, but I got to talk to Rich, So it was pretty nice. So the very next morning, got an email I flew back to Chicago, and the very next morning, got an email from Phil, said, congrats, you got the job. So I've been working nonstop ever since.
Yeah, since then, we did 94 shows last year. We're going to do over 100 this year. So, and in that, we've also written and recorded an album, rehearsed for the Left Overture 40th anniversary tour. We haven't seen a lot of home. We've been very busy.
So, Ronnie, live, what Kansas songs had you sung before you joined the band?
Wow. So many. I mean, of course, the obvious ones, Carry On, Point of No Return. But I remember in some of my old cover bands, I did Right Away, Windows, some Miracles Out of Nowhere, some really deep cut Kansas stuff, and it was kind of a, when I met guys in cover bands, I said, hey, look, I'll sing, but we got to do some Kansas songs, we got to do some, songs that I really love. So we ended up doing some, deep cut Kansas songs. So at least a dozen different Kansas songs over the years I've done before I was ever in Kansas.
Now that you're in the band, do they do them the same way you sung them originally?
Absolutely not. No.
Well, that's something I'm interested in because, so many people these days, especially like if you look at a Bob Dylan, he, you can't even tell it's Tangled Up in Blue because he's reworked it and redone it. You guys keep it fairly close to the original, or
very, very close. But I take some creative liberty here and there. But of course, when you have a song like "Dust in the Wind" that has just been ingrained. That studio version has just been ingrained in people's minds. You really can't embellish that too much because then you're going to alienate the audience. So I pick and choose where to embellish and like to think I do it wisely.
Perfect.
Okay, it might be a stretch.
You like to think so. Maybe others no. So let's talk about the new record. Since there's been such a long pause between 16 years, I guess. What
That's
was the writing process? Were songs written over the last decade or so, or was everything written since you joined the band? Or tell me how the songs on this began. Anyone?
Well, Zach.
Well, there were a few. I met Phil for the first time about 16 years ago, and I wrote him a letter and told him that I should be in the band. Really, I don't know where that nerve went. And at the time, I had submitted 4 demos to Phil, 4 songs. They didn't have lyrics, but they had melodies, and they were finished demos. And so those have been sitting around for 16 years, and those actually have made this record. After they've been through the Kansas mill. Everyone's put in their own interpretations of the parts. But 4 of those, so 4 songs have been around for a long time, and everything else was recent.
So, Somewhere to Elsewhere was the last studio album,
Yeah.
yes? So is this, I think in the past you guys have had a tradition of kind of, ending with one song and starting with a new, somehow connecting records. Is that done anyway between these 2 albums?
Not to my knowledge. No, not consciously.
No, there's no repeating theme anywhere that I can think of, unless it was a total accident. Now, this is, that was then, this is now.
That would be a good title also.
Yeah, I think it's been used, though. But in making this record, I have the utmost respect for all the guys that have been previously in this band, and we're all friends to this day. And we're very proud and protective of our legacy. But, and we have their blessing in doing what we're doing. But this is a new band. And this is what we are doing now. And in doing what we're doing, we're being, again, very respectful of who and what Kansas is, what the music is, what it's about lyrically, all of that. It was a goal in doing this, is to really redefine and concentrate what we are more so than we have in a long time. And I feel very confident that we have achieved that with this record.
I would agree. We were talking off camera about the song Visibility Zero and the video, which is amazing and wonderful. I think that it seems to be no coincidence that this album's coming out a few months before this election. And in Visibility Zero, some of the lyrics are gathering of jokers, fools, and thieves, and how do we fail to see what's right before our eyes? Tell me how these lyrics came about and how it's been received.
Oh, I wrote the lyrics for that, and how do you not write that after just turning on the TV and watching TV? But really, the song is just relative to politics through time. And going back even thousands of years, how, it seems everyone gets into politics with good intentions, but then gets poisoned by the waters. And just It's kind of a song lyrically of venting frustration over politics in itself. So not directed to any one person. I mean, it's really the theme of politics itself and the frustration that so many people have with the political process now.
I know a lot
Me
of
being one of them.
I know over the years a lot of Kansas songs have been in video games and movies and all that. Have you ever been approached by a politician to use a historical Kansas song in anything?
No, we never have. I don't know what. Usually, it seems like they tend to use them without asking. I don't know. I don't know how it would depend on who did it and how it was used and how we would react. It's kind of the similar as like when it's used in movies. Say we're often asked, here's the script. What do you think? We'd like to use your song in this, and we give it a thumbs up or thumbs down. We have turned down some films before because of subject matter or whatever, but I don't know.
Supernatural, they didn't ask.
No,
right? They just.
But that's television. It's just it's okay, and that's been wonderful for us. Politics that's some treacherous water to dive too deep in. I consider myself more than anything a private person.
Invisibility Zero is,
and it's written for the.
And it's the video and the lyrics are to make you think, let your mind process the video and evaluate it for yourself.
Beautiful. So the album title, the Prelude Implicit, is that is not a song? Is that a lyric?
It's kind of a motto.
Yeah.
Really. It's funny how, when you're throwing around song titles and album concepts and titles and stuff, and Phil brought up, he said, what do you think about Prelude Implicit? And I didn't really care for it. I said, it's missing something. Missing a word somewhere, and then we put the on it. It's like, yes! The Prelude Implicit. Suddenly it made sense to me. But, Prelude is a introduction to something musical of importance, and implicit is an absolute. And that's what this album was, but it has kind of taken on more than that since the project started, because we now have a new confidence in ourselves of we can do this and we can make great records again. And we are touring and touring more and more all the time, and we're looking down the road now to the next album and, to a future of being extremely creative years into the future. And so, this is a new beginning for us. And again, I have to stress with complete respect for the past and our legacy.
Perfect. One thing I noticed that the artwork is kind of instantly recognizable. I mean, if you saw it, you'd be like, oh, that's a Kansas album cover. It has kind of a similar theme. I know someone the gentleman you'd worked with in the past. I think he's British. I'm looking for his name here. I think he did the Left Overture cover. I think he passed away. But who did you pick to do this artwork? And did you have other runner-up choices? Anyone?
I don't know the girl's name.
Yeah, I can't remember her name.
She's a tattoo artist.
Yeah.
Well, tell me what you guys want. Tell me what. All right, how about this? What were you guys hoping to capture with the album cover? And did you want it to reference previous artwork?
We've commissioned artists in the past, and
Peter Lloyd.
There you go, Peter Lloyd, and you can't. I mean, people that grew up with albums and holding an album in your hands, and when that told so much of the story, and you could read the liner notes and open up and see. I mean, every one of us would listen to the album and get lost in the visual images of that. And that was always a very important aspect of a Kansas album. So many things now are just done with, you get a really groovy computer graphic artist person to put together some stuff, and it's all great, but going a little bit more organic again, and, finding someone to, we can bounce off ideas off of. And Phil found this tattoo artist that was living on a boat here on the Hudson. And we started going back and forth, and she was sending drafts and stuff. And she did the oil painting of it. And we really wanted to recreate again all of that magic that happens when people work together to reach a common goal. And giving her input and getting input back from her, it works for us.
So that would lead to the questions. If she's a tattoo artist, who has a tattoo of the cover?
Show them buns.
No.
I can't show that.
we can't show that. This is a for the family show.
I have the band tattoo.
I noticed that, yes.
That was we were playing. We were recording the second album, staying at the Riot House on Sunset Strip. Lyle Tuttle, his shop was right across the street, and let's get a band tattoo. So we went down there, and we didn't have any money, and this was the cheapest one they had, $15. And everybody but Kerry didn't want to desecrate his body, so he didn't get one, but everybody else got one. A lot of the crew did too. This is now. I have an acoustic guitar with this at the 12th fret. It's actually, this is hidden on the album cover for Prelude Implicit.
Well,
you
that's
gave
very
it away.
That's exciting. Just like Playboy used to have the little rabbit somewhere on the cover,
Yeah.
I think. Ooh, I
Find
like
it
that.
if you can.
I like that. Oh, and the other question would be, where is the original oil painting?
It's still on her boat, I guess. I don't know where it's going to wind up, since we will own it. My guess is Thomas with the record company, since he is paying for all this, he will probably wind up with it. So it'll be sitting in his apartment in Germany, probably.
I would think it would be like the Stanley Cup. It would just pass to each of you at one point.
I'd like to have that.
Yeah, I would put over the mantle.
You can get it in December. How's that?
Okay. Like every
right.
2 months it switches hands.
Exactly. You could have someone travel around with it, get its own seat on the plane, All right, just a few more questions, then I will let you guys go. So now that this is the anniversary year, 40 years of Leftoverture, does this mean you are playing the album in its entirety, or what format are you doing live?
The entire record is my understanding.
Yep.
You would know.
Well, yeah. I've worked on it. Better be, because I've worked on every doggone song. So
in sequence.
Yeah, in order. Yeah.
As recorded.
And does this mean you are playing the new album before and after it, new songs, or is this just entirely Leftoverture only?
No, this is once the Leftoverture tour starts, which is what we start rehearsals for tomorrow. That's a part of it, but then we have a lot of other stuff from the first album that we haven't played in years, just things, and then we have songs that, some point of return, we got to put that in there somewhere, so we just got a lot of material that we have to put in, but then we've got the new album, so we're going to be more than half of that, along with other stuff, and with all of Leftoverture, so it's going to be a long night with Kansas. It's the most extensive time I think we maybe have ever played, and we got a lot to learn. It's been quite a cram to get all this, because we play too many notes, and there's really a lot to remember.
Yeah.
I would imagine. If I recall, in terms of writing, Leftoverture was a lot of Kerry's baby in some ways.
Yes.
How is he doing? You mentioned that you're friends with all the former members. What's he up to these days?
Well, Kerry moved back to Kansas quite a while ago. Then, 16 years ago, we did the album at actually his studio and on his farm. Kerry had a stroke, I guess 3 or 4 years ago now, and so he doesn't get around much. He's gotten most of his capabilities back. We recently played in Topeka, and he came up and sat in on a song with us. So we see him when we're in the area. he's been threatening to put out his cantata, is what it's called, for the last 20 years. He's still working on it, so I know that's what he's up to. And that's basically it. So again, we see Robbie when we're in certain parts of he'll come in and sit in with us for a song or two. Me and Dave Hope send jokes back and forth on the internet daily, so we're still all in touch.
Perfect. You mentioned a little bit ago about the Riot House and the Sunset Strip. I'm wondering, Ronnie, you haven't toured with a band of this scale before, I guess. Do you think you missed out on the crazy old days of the 70s and TV's out the window? Or are you going to do that again?
Absolutely. I'm feeling left out, No.
So no TV's out the window, motorcycles down the hall, anything yet?
No, and I would like to say that I am the Harley T-shirt wearer in the band that actually owns a Harley. So no, just I always give them the business about that. But
yeah, what's that about?
I'm not allowed to own a Harley. Okay, that's. So I get the shirts. Okay, big deal.
No. Do I feel I missed out on that? Maybe in some ways, because that was a crazy time. But boy, I started playing in the late 70s. 79, I think I played my first bar in the Chicagoland area. So I paid my dues and seen a lot, through the decades myself, just from my perspective. So.
Have you ever auditioned or been approached by another band of this stature or close to it?
Yes, actually. I was approached by Survivor in the late 90s, which didn't come to fruition. I auditioned for Foreigner back in 2004, and Kelly Hansen beat me out. But, things happen for a reason, and I was patient and got into my favorite band, so... No arguments there.
I know. I mean, I know you guys just released a documentary about a year ago, I think. But I feel there needs to be a new one about, like you say, the renewed current lineup with the respect for history.
There is the Miracles Out of Nowhere next edition, part 2.
Miracles from Somewhere?
The sequel.
Nowhere to Elsewhere.
Yeah, that's starting 2 years ago, and let's see where it goes. It would be a comeback kid story, but we're still writing it.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes from here.
Exactly. And I'm looking down the song titles for the Prelude Implicit. Were there any songs left over, and is the sequencing important as in for a conceptual reason? I guess I'm trying to ask, would you call this a concept album? And is there anything left over?
Well, that's going to be Left Overture too.
Right Overture.
Yeah. Or that. I like that.
I think With This Heart being the first cut on the album and also being the first release was really the only thing that really falls into any kind of sequence there of any importance. But boy, how do you decide which song goes in front of the other when you're so proud of every one and you have your heart and soul in every one of them? I'm sure everyone feels the same. That it's tough to make that decision, and that's another reason why I could never ever write the set lists for this band. Because if I wrote the set list for our shows would be 6 hours long because there would be just too many songs I couldn't say no to. But it's the same thing with this album. So I think Phil pretty much took the reins on the order of the songs for the album.
It starts falling into place after a while, and there's a certain pacing that you want to do things, and bring it up, you'll get their interest quick, but then you want to lull a little bit and then really hit with something. And you're mixing and matching and trying different things. This is a little bit similar to that one. Let's separate them a bit. And it's a lot of trial and error. But it's a more of a gut feeling when you're done, when you finally say, yeah, that's going to be the sequence.
And then Phil writes in his drum solo where he has 20 minutes just to himself, right? All right, you guys. Thank you so much for being here. We're very excited for the current Kansas and the future because, as you said, you're looking to the future and new albums. So we'll see you back, and we'll always play you on Nights with Alice Cooper.
Oh,
Great.
Great to be here.
Thank you very much.
I think it's a total compliment that people do imitations of you. You know, to me that's great. And when somebody, a known artist, covers one of your songs, I think that's a real great compliment also.
Yeah, I think that's the difference here, you know what I mean? I've done live albums with Skinner, and you bring in all the big production. This was recorded on a Pro Tools system that Larry Johnstrom, who is the bass player for 38 Special, had just got, and he said, hey man, you guys want to hear what you sound like? You know, I'll come out and do this and everything. And we said, sure, bring it on, you know, so.